Hello, everyone. It's Friday. It's Friday. We're tired, but it's Chat with Mac Day. We're exhausted, but we're happy. We've gotten through the week. The holidays are coming, so thank you for joining us, Nadeem. How's it going, sir?
Oh, going pretty good. So it's been a busy week in
Oh man,
more
yeah,
ways than one.
yeah.
We've been busy. You've been busy. Hackers have been busy. Um,
Boy,
the only thing it seems like who was asleep at the wheel is Fireeye.
yeah. We actually want to talk about that now. Unless if unless our audience has been under a rock somewhere. Yeah, funny when this happened, CNN just blasted it everywhere. Fireeye, they do cybersecurity. They have cybersecurity tools, and they were compromised rather severely. So Nadeem, kind of lead us down this whole thing. It is not was, it is still a very big deal.
Yeah. So first, I think last time my screen did not share. So first, let's make sure my screen actually shares this time. And tell me if you see my screen.
Are you sharing something?
Well, I
I
thought it
guess that'll
was.
be a no.
Oh, I see what's going on. I see the red icon, but it's just okay. Let me stop sharing that. I'm gonna reshare it, and this time, let me share the entire screen. Okay, can you see that?
Boom, there we go. Yes, I see it.
All right. Okay, I was trying to share a window, and I guess there's an issue with Edge. But anyway,
Yep.
so this is from New York Times. I'm gonna go to routers as well. Routers as well because there's some more info over there. But so first of all, Fireeye. Who is Fireeye? They make security software,
Hmm.
and Fireeye has been in business, ever since I can remember. They've been big on security. They have a lot of tools that focus on security. I mean, this is a 3.5 billion company, and I mean some big clients. Sony, has been one of them. Um, so the what happened is this is something that we're seeing a trend. We're seeing more and more hacks on companies that make antivirus software,
Yeah.
and now security software. And FireEye, in this case, is saying that they see some fingerprints of a state entity. So they're thinking some Russian signatures in the hack. Um, so, I mean, it is what it is. Look, this was a 0-day vulnerability that was used, and let me go over here to the. So the 0-day vulnerability was already well known. We're still waiting on the details. The case is in the hands of FBI now, and they have their Russian specialists on there. So they have a team that has experience dealing with Russian hackers. So they understand the signature and everything. So that team is the one that's handling it right now. But the thing is, FireEye is a publicly traded company, and they have to reveal this kind of stuff. They cannot not reveal it. I mean, it's a requirement by the SEC. You have to reveal if you have a breach. Now, if FireEye was a privately owned company, we probably wouldn't have heard about it unless somebody reported it, or somebody found out. It'll be, if it's just a small number of people that were impacted by this, they'll be like, my credit card got stolen somewhere or something, or something, my credentials, somebody sold my credential to somebody, something like that. But being a publicly traded company, they had to reveal this. And there's been a lot of similar security focused companies that have gotten hacked. The thing is, it's like, I remember this was many, many years ago, and somebody told me I remember that there was a train station, and somebody said, "Hey, there's a lot of pickpockets at so and so train station," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I was with my friend. My friend said, "Well, no, I'll be careful. You know, pickpocket's not going to pick my pockets." I looked at him and I was like, "Look, these pickpockets, they are professionals. If they target you, there is no being careful. If they target you, they're going to get what they want."
That's true. That's
And
true.
and security is the same way. If somebody targets you and they keep digging and digging and digging, eventually they're going to get what they want. The thing is that you want to make it difficult for them to get the information that you have, so that they will peel a couple of layers off and then go to an easier target. Now, this being a run operation, or state sponsored operation, I think layers in this case would not have mattered much, because they were focused on
Yeah.
breaching
Yep.
Fireeye.
Yep.
And maybe they were focused on that because Fireeye tools are used by a lot of different entities out there. Um, so so maybe they were targeted for that. But it's, what can small businesses do? So these are large corporations, publicly traded companies. They reveal it. They FBI gets involved. What happens when a small company, like our customers listening, or us, if we had a breach and we reported it to FBI, we don't even get a call back.
That's right.
Actually, I think we have had instances where, like, I've had instances where I've had to call the FBI, and it's like the person that, first of all, you can't get to talk to a person, and an agent. You always talk to, like, an operator somewhere.
Right.
First of all, they don't want to talk to you anyway. But even if you
Right.
do get, even if you do get past that and somebody does talk to you, uh, they're gonna say, "Oh, nothing's gonna happen. Report it using so and so website." It's like, just don't bug me. Just go do your stuff over there. And it's like, so in this case, they're actually interested because it's a large corporation, and it's a big deal. A lot of people are going to be impacted by this. I just hope that FireEye had good cyber insurance, because this is what happens.
Right.
Um, the customers that are using FireEye tools and are impacted by this, they are going to have issues, and when they do have issues, they're going to file a claim. They're going to go after FireEye because that's where the breach happened. So now all of a sudden, FireEye's cyber insurance has to cover some of those damages. So it's a matter of how good is FireEye's cyber insurance. Uh, and I can tell you this: they're not riding on their umbrella insurance. I can tell you that. But I do see a lot of small businesses. That's what they do. They just have a
Yeah,
little
we've talked
rider.
this.
Yeah, a little rider on their umbrella insurance, or general liability insurance, and that little rider is not worth the paper it's written on. It's only, I mean, when something happens, you're not even going to get I mean, not even like a third of what you should be getting.
No.
There are so many ways for these insurance companies to get out of having to pay. And that's why when I talk to customers, I always tell them, you want to have a repeatable process that can show that you have certain tools in place. You have to show that to the insurance guys before they pay. It's almost like, let's say your building burns down and you have fire insurance. Well, before that fire insurance pays, they're going to ask you, Mr. Business Owner, did you have sprinklers installed? And you're going to check that. Yes, we did. And did you test those sprinklers? and they're going to be like, oh, when we installed it, we checked them that one time. Remember that subcontractor checked them? Yes, we did check them. Okay, how often did you check them? And they're going to pause because the insurance companies need repetitive checks in there. So
Yeah.
you can't just do it one time and walk away and just expect things are going to keep working.
Mhm.
It's more like a routine maintenance type deal. If it's like checking that fluid, that coolant in your car. That's a good example. So checking that coolant in your car. If it's you don't have to check it, and most times everything is good, but you should check it. Now if you don't check it and your car runs out of coolant and engine damage occurs,
Yep.
what's going to happen? Of course, the manufacturer is going to say, "Hey,
We're not
you ran
liable for
without
this.
coolant.
Right.
We're not going to cover it." And that's the thing. So the fire insurance is not going to cover that fire if you were not checking those sprinklers, if you were not testing them on a routine basis. And you have to be able to prove that you're testing it. Folks, insurance in IT is the same way.
It
You have
sure
to
is.
test these things, and you have to be able to prove that you've been testing these things. And then they have, the insurance companies don't have a problem paying. Of course, I recommend only certain companies because we have a good history of them paying out what they said they would pay. And then there are some companies that almost never pay out what they say they pay, so stay away from those. But the thing is, you need to have those routine, repeatable tests to be able to prove that the systems you say are in place are in place. So when the time comes, you don't have the extra hassle of fighting the insurance company. In this case, this is still ongoing, so I don't know, um what kind of insurance Fireeye has. I'm pretty sure it's pretty good because I mean Fireeye is like one of those top security tools
Right.
developers out there. I mean, I've used some of their tools. Yeah, they're one of their top. So
Now, I do have a question for you,
sure.
Nadeem, in regards to that, because you know we have talked, um, and maybe not extensively enough, but I think, at least I hope so. Some of the smaller companies are starting to wake up and say, well, I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar company; they'll bounce back. But if it happens to me, then what? So I guess my question is this: we kind of talked about it, but if you can go, in the little time that we have, is there recourse if let's say let's example, you're a financial institution, you've been around, you're smaller, you trade, or you finance investments for mid-tier clientele, you get hacked. What is the recourse for the customer? And then on the other hand, the company that gets hacked, what are if they don't have insurance?
So I see where you're going with this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
look at some of the statistics. Usually when an incident like this happens at a small company, we see a high percentage of those companies not recovering from that issue ever. I mean, they just go out of business. They just cannot recover from that incident. So a lot of these small companies, and that's why, I mean, and I've seen this. That's why I always say you have to have good insurance in place because, here's an example. Let's say you make bricks, and people order bricks, and you have orders for bricks. You have to supply so many on a certain schedule, and you get hacked and somebody comes in and encrypts all your data. Your computer stop, everything stops, your brick making robot stops, and you can't make any bricks. Now there is big building going up, and that building has to start on a certain date. Otherwise, they are going to have a loss of so many thousands of dollars per day. Every day they get delayed from their opening date. I mean, so these things are all planned out, right? So let's say there's a high rise, and all of a sudden now you cannot provide the material to build that high rise, and nobody else can provide it because that builder was relying on you as the provider of that item. And if you cannot provide it, what's going to happen? That the owner of the building, whoever's paying to build the building, is going to sue the subcontractor, who's going to sue you. And ultimately, if you have insurance, your insurance is going to pay a certain amount to these guys for the losses. Now, if you don't have that insurance in place, I mean, usually these losses are going to be way more than what your company is going to be worth. I mean, there's going to be not just the losses, but penalties, and you didn't do your due diligence. You didn't take the proper care to protect this data, and because of that, now we have a $10 million loss. That $10 million loss, somebody's going to be held accountable for that, and they're going to come after this brick maker, and the brick maker's not going to have that money. And that's how a lot of these companies, they just go out of business. They cannot recover. Uh, on the other hand, if they do have good systems in place, if they did have a good backup in place, number one, they can very quickly recover because they have backup. So when their stuff gets encrypted, they can very quickly recover. I'm talking about not days, but a matter of hours. They can recover, so they can keep making those bricks. Even if that fails, if they have good insurance in place, now that insurance is going to pay out the losses downstream. And not only that, but usually when you have cyber insurance, you also have access to the lawyers at this cyber insurance company. So most of the cyber insurances that we've dealt with, they have their own team of specialists who, this is all they do. They just do cybercrime. That's all they do. That's all they know. So these guys are specialists in their field, and they are very good at negotiating and finding things to minimize damage to their client, which is you. And so it's very important. It's like last time I looked, the number was like almost like 49 or some odd percent small businesses that do not recover after they have an incident. So that's a big number.
That's a huge number.
Yeah, that's just a big number. And everything is fine. It's almost like, yeah, you can run by the seat of your pants, not do any backups, not have any insurance. But then if your building burns, it burns.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I mean,
Right.
and that's what insurance is there for. But the thing is, but that's not even the problem. The problem is a lot of times companies will have that fire insurance on their building, but they're under this concept that they don't have to do anything, and if something happens, the insurance is just going to pay. Well, it's not that simple.
Right.
They're going to want to make sure that certain precautions were taken. You did have sprinklers. You were not storing dynamite in that building. I mean, so they're going to want to, have, some of these things that they want to see. So, a lot of times when we do these assessments, we automate them, and I think we've talked about this before. So we automate this process. So every excuse me. So every so often, whether it's quarterly or monthly or annually, we will scan the customer systems and we will send that report. It's almost like in the example of that building burning, it's like we test these sprinklers and then we send this report to the insurance place saying, hey, it's date so and so at time so and so. We've tested these sprinklers. They work as expected. Boom, they got the report.
Mm.
Now, when something happens, they're not even going to ask you, "Hey, did you test them?" No, they're going to go look at that report, and they're going to know that you were on the ball. You did everything in your power to be safe, but yet bad things happened, and that's when you get paid out the amount that you should get paid out, not a fraction of what you expect.
Mm. Mm.
So, but I mean, this is we are going to see more cases of this,
Absolutely.
and I think
Yeah.
the numbers are like 60. I think last time I checked, 65% by 2024, 65% increase, and I'm thinking that's a very conservative number. I mean, so far, based on history, that number has been much higher. That rate, that percent has been much higher year to year. Um, so I'm thinking it's going to be a much bigger number. Um, and you gotta protect yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't protect yourself, don't the insurance company is not going to protect you.
Yeah.
You got to protect yourself. So this Fireeye incident, it's like this is
I mean, I think the best way for me, like I said, I was reading it earlier today, and oddly enough, I felt like it's just an example of how, just quite honestly, bad is going to get. You just said 2024, 65% increase. With this company that specializes in tools to prevent that from happening. I mean, I don't see. I can imagine being a small business owner, especially if I'm a small business owner that has access to very sensitive information, and not at the very least having some kind of contingency plan if this happens. I mean, who's to say? And it's not even who's to say. We know this. That someone doesn't target this small financial investment firm down the street and say, okay, they might be good for about 50 grand. Why the hell not? Let's go ahead and hit them, hold them for ransom, get the 50 grand, and whatever. That would keep me awake at night. That would.
yeah. And sometimes when companies are making tools that are security focused, I think they fall into a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Especially at the top, the upper management, because the upper management a lot of times is not who is familiar the technicalities of these tools. So they're like, you know, yeah, we have some great, geniuses working for us. Nobody's going to hack us. But those geniuses are developing tools that you sell. They are making those bricks that you sell. They're not there to protect the building from fire. They're not testing those sprinklers. They're not doing those kind of things. And I
Hmm.
think that's what makes, a lot of
That's
times
good.
upper management fall into this false sense of security.
That's good.
Um, but here's a good thing. So um, I was talking to one of our vendor suppliers, and one of the things that I'm it's going to happen. I'm working on is getting some funding for assessments for customers. So what that means is that we can actually do free assessments for customers, and what this assessment will do is it will show customers if they have all the things in place that cyber insurance companies require you to have in place to cover you.
Mm.
Uh, and I think that's going to be very eye opening for for a lot of people who, I mean, every time we've done this assessment, uh, we've I've dealt with customers and companies where they'd be like, oh yeah, we've we've done so much work in the security side. We are secure. Yeah, you can run your scan and we're good. And then when we run the scan, their eyes open up when they see that report and they're like, whoa. Uh, and then it's like the finger pointing. Whose department is that? Why didn't that? And it's like it's eye opening. But the good thing is we're gonna get this funding, so we'll have a limited amount of assessments that we can do, but I'll have Mac reach out to as many people as possible to schedule these assessments so we can make sure that everything is in place that should be in place, not just for compliance reasons, which some of our customers are in the financial field and some are in the health field. So not just for compliance reasons, but also to get cyber insurance coverage, get that claim not get denied like many claims get denied.
Right.
So I think that's going to be good, and incidents like these are what's pushing a lot of vendor manufacturers to offer these tools and kind of give us some back end credits that we can run so many reports out of these tools, without having to pay. Otherwise, every time, so these assessments are really not just, like an easy checkbox. I mean, these tools actually go out and dig deep. I mean, they're looking at your Active Directory, they're looking at your password policy, they're looking at your lockout policy. I mean, they're looking at so many different things, so many different policies. Like just to give you an example, like to be compliant in the health industry, if a user walks away from the machine, you have to lock that machine after a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not locking that machine, well, you're not compliant. And some of the small offices I've seen, the doctor will be like, oh well, let's just pay the fine when it comes time. If we get audited and we fail, let's just pay the fine instead of being compliant. But compliance is so much cheaper and so much easier than not being compliant. And then like if you're in the financial industry and if you're not compliant and something happens, will you stay in business? Will customers trust you with their data?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like this incident happened at Fireeye. Will I be buying a Fireeye tool to do any kind of security
That's going to be
assessment or
interesting.
anything? I
That's
mean,
going to be interesting to see what happens. That's
yeah, I
that's a
mean,
good
it's
point.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, and this is uh,
Yeah.
they're actually talking about this. They were like, we promise that the tools we are making are secure. And how can you promise that? So like right here, FireEye disclosing what happened and which tools were taken is helping to minimize the chances of others getting compromised as a result of this breach. So what that means is if a tool that you're using that was developed by FireEye and because of this breach is now compromised, but you're still using that tool, and if your customers now get hacked because you use this tool that was compromised, I
Mm.
mean, your customer's gonna come after your neck. You're gonna come after FireEye's neck. Somebody's neck is gonna get choked.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, so Mac, we're just having a laugh. But this is this.
Yeah,
I
it's a
mean,
serious. It's
we're gonna see more and more breaches like this.
absolutely.
There's been MSPs that have been breached. There's been
Yep.
IT companies that have been breached. There's
Yep.
now security companies that have been breached. So here's why the bad guys want to attack companies like IT companies and security companies, because if they can get in and compromise one tool, that one tool is used like across tens if not thousands of companies out there. So now all of a sudden they have access to all these companies information, all of their customers, and then think of it, from there they can get into their customers. I mean, it's like a
It's a
trade.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lucrative business. I mean, the bad guys would be out of business if it wasn't lucrative. It's a very
Yeah.
lucrative business. And I see, I mean, like some of the dark web checks that we do, uh, there there's some interesting information out
Yeah.
there. Uh, and I don't know why, but every time around Christmas time, and it hadn't happened so far, it's only a matter of time. Every time around Christmas time, at least one of my cards gets compromised.
Wow.
So I'm just waiting for it to get compromised.
Yeah, it's just a wait and see type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but it hasn't yet, and maybe it hasn't because if I can, I always try to use, not use my credit card, but use some sort of electronic payment method, like near field communication or something like that, like Apple Pay or
Mhm.
Android or something like that. So maybe I won't get hacked because I mean, we all know that the hack is usually happening where somebody has installed a scanner that is not the scanner that the merchant installed, so they're basically skimming that card when you swipe it at like a gas station or something.
Yeah.
They're just skimming off that number and then they're using it. But anyway, it's been an interesting week. We haven't seen the Fireeye fallout yet. It's still ongoing. So I'm thinking probably in the next few days we'll find out what really who all it's going to impact. But anybody out there who has any kind of computer systems out there, you want to make sure that you do some routine compliance tests. It's like testing your sprinklers. So if there is a fire, you can tell your insurance provider that, oh, well, we did everything in our power to do. We tested those sprinklers. They should have worked. We don't know what happened or why didn't they work. Or maybe they worked, they just weren't good enough. But the thing is, then your insurance company is more apt to pay rather than you not have the proof that you tested those sprinklers and all of a sudden a fire happens. They're not going to.
Right. You're
Yeah.
screwed. Yeah. That's a good point.
So with that, I think we'll close. I mean, we can go on and on about this, but I think we've killed this horse so many times. Hopefully, people out there understand.
Hopefully.
Um, and everybody in the IT field kind of understands this, and that's why you're seeing companies like Microsoft, companies like a lot of these, even Google and Facebook, all of these companies are giving you free multi-factor, second factor
Yep.
authentications.
Yep.
Now, one thing about that second factor, and I know I've talked about this, but I gotta say it again. Don't use text message as second factor. That is not secure. You want to use an authentication app which generates that token. That is the only NIST compliant way. SMS text message is not. It's consider it already compromised. So by the time you get that text message, you should consider it already compromised. So with that, everybody, have a great day, and I hope it doesn't rain this weekend, but it looks like it might.
Yeah.
And be safe out there. Thanks, Mac.
See you next week, sir. Everybody have a great day.